Hello and welcome to the coverage of Grand Prix Toronto. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth. I've got Jacob Van Lunen sitting right next to me, and we are excited to bring you round 15 coverage here. This is the last round of Swiss. Both of these players are 12-2, and that makes this a win and in for top 8. There's a lot more riding on the line than just that, though, Jake. Craig Wescoe, number 19, you see there on the top 25 pro rankings. If he wins this and makes the top 8 of this GP, he will secure enough pro points to get platinum, assuming that he shows up at the last pro tour for the whole next year. It's a huge step for a professional player like Craig Wescoe. He's been platinum.
Also, clinches platinum with this, or has he already done that? I think, he's passed the threshold.
You know, I think he might get insta-platinum. That's what Randy likes to call it, where you get it ahead of time. Yeah. He's slated to get it anyway. I think it's one of those scenarios. But either way, a lot on the line here, and Wescoe still has a lot to fight for. You know, if he loses this match and doesn't pick up the pro points necessary between now and the pro tour, it puts a lot of emphasis on that last pro tour of the season, where he's going to need to pick up more than the 3 points that you get just for showing up. And, you know, if he's going to make platinum, and again, I mean, it's his whole life. This is his career, right? Like, you know, if he falls off of platinum, he still's gold. He still gets to play the pro tours, but it's a different lifestyle for sure. You know, you get, look, let's just be honest, you get a lot more money if you're platinum.
Yeah.
You know, Craig, of course, augments his income by writing articles and such too. So he's got other ways to make money, but this is the way he wants to, by playing Magic tournaments, and he's going to do his best here to make this top 8. But he's got, well, just one of the best Magic players in the world, number 13 currently,
Paul
Rietzel, Hall of Famer, yeah, and he is going to give him every bit that he can handle. Both of these players, in some ways, they have a similar style in that they both kind of prefer to be beating down when possible, and they're both combat experts.
Yeah, they both prefer to have proactive strategies.
Yeah.
And cluttered boards favor them because they love combat. They're both Pro Tour champions. You know, Craig Wescoe won Pro Tour San Diego a few years back. Paul Reitzel, I believe he won Pro Tour Paris. It might have been Amsterdam.
All right, and here it is, the namesake card here, White Green Company. He's just fired it off, collective company, so this is going to let him look at the top 6 cards of his library and put any 2 creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less onto the battlefield.
It looks like he may have just found a pair of Brimaz.
That's awkward.
It is quite awkward. So he may just have to put one of those into play.
I haven't seen him miss yet. He's going to go for both. I guess he decides that one in the graveyard may have some benefit later on in the game. The one on the bottom of his library, he's never drawn that many cards anyway, so go for it. And this, I'm assuming, is going to be Hero's Downfall. Do you see?
And I assume that's what that was.
Yeah, I don't actually see where it went, but that's the only thing that makes sense here, I guess. Yeah, since it went to the graveyard. So, Brimaz bites the dust. And that was actually just a very disappointing...
Yeah.
That was the worst collective company I've seen Craig resolve on the weekend. He only got one creature, it immediately died. That is not plan A for him.
It would have been better if he had just, you know, cast the Death Mist Raptor. But, yeah, so Craig gonna go for another collective company here. And this one looks a little bit better.
Okay, so now this shows you the real power of this card.
That's the thing, is even though he whiffed the last time, the fact that he was able to play another one and it was of, you know, a mean power level for what his deck normally does with that card.
Well, and that's kind of the cool part about it, is you look at what was ultimately not a great case scenario for him, and I mean, that card would see a lot of play, right? Brimaz at instant speed for 4 mana, like flash it on your end step.
Yeah,
Brimaz would be fantastic.
Restoration Angel.
Exactly.
Card,
yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, so Death Mist Raptor is going to jump in front and trade off there.
And the thing is, he has another Raptor too, and a Den Protector in his hand, so we can play that other Raptor out and then start applying pressure with that. The thing about playing the other Raptor is that the moment that Paul tries to turn the game, tries to shift gears, If he has another Raptor in play, then he's going to end with 2 Raptors in his graveyard, and then that Den Protector in his hand just becomes, you know, basically game over against a deck like Abzan Aggro.
All right, there's another Hero's Downfall to take down the Fleece main line, but, you know, Paul can't be happy about the way that that developed, right? I mean, that was just basically a 2-for-1 with upside for Craig Wesco.
Absolutely.
You know? He got a straight up 2-for-1 and ended up with a Deathmist Raptor in his yard. He's got to be thrilled with that. And Wesco could play another Deathmist Raptor here, but instead he's going to play an Elvish Mystic and the Den Protector that you mentioned a minute ago. I think he figures that Paul's about out of gas here as far as removal spells go. He's already killed a couple of his creatures.
It's reasonable. He could also try to level Paul by playing Deathmist Raptor face down.
Oh, that's interesting.
In this spot.
You know, it's also a good play there from Craig, because if Paul does want to use removal here to take out the Den Protector, if he assumes that's what it is, he needs to do it right now. He can't let Craig Wesco untap. And that means that Paul doesn't get to play a big threat, you know, a Siege Rhino or something like that on this turn. He's kind of one or the othering him here. And I like the way that Craig set this up, because if Paul does have removal, he's actually faced with a pretty difficult decision, because if that's a Den Protector, it's going to get ugly. All right, it is a Siege Rhino, and that means that Craig Wesco is going to get to go off with the Den Protector here. And we've seen him get back cards like Collective Company and just run that back through again, and you're just grinding your opponent into a pulp with the card advantage once you start that going. I mean, how many 2-for-1s can a deck like Abzan Aggro really stand here? Now Craig's found himself at 10 life and looking fairly stable on board. I mean, the Siege Rhinos,
damage from his lands either.
No, only 2 colors. But yeah, Siege Rhino is looking angry, but that's what the Deathmist Raptors are for. All right, there it is. Den Protector gets turned face up. And the Deathmist Raptor comes back, and I believe that Craig's still deciding what he wants to actually get back. And it's going to be a Flooded Strand, so taking a conservative route here, he needs to land this turn. That does give him his 4th mana on board right now.
He's playing against Abzan Aggro, so he knows for a fact that he's not playing against board sweepers. It's not going to be a Crux of Fate from the other end. Developing his board, playing as many spells as possible in a small time frame as possible when he's ahead is a winning strategy here.
Sharomica's Command. And meanwhile, the Deathmist Raptor is going to fight. The Den Protector is going to get bigger, and he's not done yet. He's got Seeker of the Way, so a beautiful turn there for Craig Wesco, getting back the land so that he could play 2 more spells this turn here.
And this Den Protector now, growing and growing, soon it's going to be so big that, you know, Paul won't have a prayer blocking it with anything.
And there's a Fleece main line as a follow-up play for Rietzel. Pretty unexciting at this point. Craig's really just sort of outclassed a Fleece main at this point. Den Protector can run right past it and apply pressure to Paul's life total, which has fallen down to 11 himself. And Wesco still has that other Deathmist Raptor and I believe a pair of Den Protectors in hand. Wow. Grinded.
Yeah, Craig's deck seems so well positioned against these Abzan Aggro decks.
It does. You know, the
really
deck that Craig played at the Pro Tour, the Bant Megamorph style deck, has also done really well here this weekend too. It just feels like it's a Craig Wesco weekend.
It was the most successful deck in the tournament by a pretty large margin. I mean, Craig really seems to be tuned into what can win right now. And I mean, he's been a dangerous player for a very, very long time. And now that we have him, you know, in this format where the grindiest creature strategies that are, you know, semi-aggressive, that have the ability to run the opponent over, are where you want to be. I mean, that's where Craig has always wanted to be. So the fact that that's actually the winning strategy right now, I mean...
Hey, when those stars align for Craig, he's ready for them.
Absolutely.
He's ready and waiting. Rietzel in the tank, sitting at just 7 life now. And you can see, but he's got a lot of work to do to get out of this mess. He feels woefully behind here.
I mean, he could monstrous his Fleeceman line, but it does little to nothing.
So he's going to start by, well, I'm going to call it a desperation obs on charm here. I mean, that puts him dead on board if he doesn't find something very specific. And yeah, he doesn't have anything. So that's going to do it for the first game. Craig Wesco, 1 to the good and 1 game from Platinum. And by the way, a top 8 of this GP too.
Yeah, and that game, it's not like he had the most exceptional draw ever. You know, he drew his Elvis Stick on turn 2. Mm-hmm. Not really where you want it.
Nope.
His first collected company hit 1 creature. Not very exciting.
No.
And yet, he just completely destroyed Paul Rietzl.
Yeah, that was not particularly close.
Paul's draw was extremely land heavy, to be fair.
He did float a little bit. Remember, he burned off 2 heroes downfalls.
Yeah, he was using all of his mana.
He played a Siege Rhino that game. Like, he did stuff.
Yeah, he had an Abzan Charm.
Randy, you got an update for us from the side tables?
Yeah, a couple of them actually. Marcel Zafra has won his first match with the all foiled out Esper Dragons deck.
His first game?
His first game. He's up a game now. And Edgar Malhays just, it was awesome the way this game ended. So Justin Reardon goes for the win. He's playing a Tarka Red, goes for the win. He's attacking with goblins. Edgar has left it where the 3 goblins he has to let through will drop him to 1. Justin goes for Become Immense on an unblocked goblin. Draconic Roar fizzles the Become Immense and deals the damage so that he can crack back for lethal when he untaps.
Oh my.
Yeah,
and so he actually needed him to go for it. If he didn't go for it.
Well, he needed to Draconic Roar something.
Yeah, but if he would have gone for the Draconic Roar, then the Become Immense would have killed him.
That is precisely correct.
That's brutal.
Edgar, by the way, he's playing the other Mardu deck, so it's similar to the Ben Stark Mardu Dragons deck. He does have Rabble Masters, so I don't think he has quite as many dragons as Ben. I think he's got Rabble Masters instead of some of the dragons, but that is the other Mardu deck. Definitely, Mardu was not a big part of this field before, but we may still see it in the top 8.
Is Zafra's match, is that a win and in?
All 4 in the feature match area are win and ins.
Gotcha.
Including Zafra's, absolutely.
Thanks, Randy. So we're still sideboarding here, as you can see, with our 2 Pro Tour champions going at it. This is a sweet match.
Yeah, this is a sweet tournament.
There's so much on the line for these players, and they are both awesome.
Yeah.
And I kind of like
very
that they're
happy for either one whenever
similar.
they're winning.
Yeah.
And they have very similar play styles. It's everything you want.
This is great. This is my second favorite part of the tournament.
Now, question for you. In the dark, hearing about the 2 different Mardu decks, the Ben Stark Mardu deck and this other Mardu deck that's in the feature match areas, hearing that Ben Stark does not have Rebel Master and the other guy does, which deck do you think is likely better?
I like the not Rabble Master builds right now. Yeah, normally I would just say Rabble Master because I don't really know how you can ask for much more power from just a 3-mana creature than that. But I like going a little bigger here. I like what Ben Stark's done. I think that especially coming out of this tournament, you know, one of the things that you and I have been noticing a lot, Jake, is the relative lack of Stormbreath dragons floating around.
Absolutely.
You know, and one of the decks that you and I just mentioned was an offshoot from what Craig Wesco's doing here, and in fact the deck that Craig Wesco championed at the Pro Tour, which is the Bant Megamorph deck. It has Dragonlord Ojutai in it as well. Apparently they can't really do much with a Stormbreath. I talked to Ben Weitz, who's crushing this tournament with it, at least up until a couple rounds ago. I don't know how he's doing now, but he said, look, I was hoping not to see that card very much, and I didn't see it very much, so I'm very happy because my deck is fairly cold to it. Dragonlord Ojutai doesn't do anything against it. It's good against Dragonlord Ojutai defensively if you need to be, like, it just,
Dragonlord Ojutai makes it not attack, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And the other, like, I guess you can race it with that Megamorph. But it's definitely the best card against that deck.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key is that, like, sure, it can race it if that was the only threat, but those decks that play Stormbreath, they're bringing the heat, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They're curving into dragons, and
they're hitting you with a lot of incidental damage too. Like when they kill your Fleeceman Lion, like you also just took an extra 3.
Yeah, Draconic Roar.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
When
they make you sacrifice a creature, you're taking an extra 2.
Yep.
It's you find yourself at like 10 life before they've even attacked you.
It adds up very quickly. Yeah, you're totally right. So yeah, I think I like going a little bigger right now. I gotta say, man, I would love to play with Crackling Doom in this format too.
Yeah, it seems like a nice
place
to be when people
Maybe
are
not
casting
perfect,
Dragonlord
but
Ojutai.
quite good. Yeah, I'm a big fan. All right, here we go. Game number 2. Can Craig Wesco close this thing out and lock himself up for platinum? Just got a thumbs up from Ben White, so we were just talking about him a minute ago with that deck. He just gave me the thumbs up. That should mean he's in the top 8 because he had 2 different winning, so he's in.
We have a very special.
Congratulations to him.
Yeah. We've had a cosplayer walking around all weekend. We're especially excited to
so
see
good start here from Craig Wesco.
Liliana will
Yep,
be on the
first.
Soren banner for the next half hour or so for photo opportunity.
I mean, this means that Paul has something like a Bile Blight, maybe a ultimate price.
Right from the Soren banner.
Yeah, Wesco is going to want to do anything other. If he has any other place to put his mana, he will put his mana elsewhere. Oh, and boy, does he.
That's a good place to put your mana.
So this is one thing about this white-green deck. It can really pivot nicely here. And he's going to play Mastery of the Unseen. Now all of a sudden, the game looks totally different from both players' perspective because there's this Mastery of the Unseen that's saying, if this game goes a little too long, it takes over.
Yeah, I will win.
Yeah.
And it's a little odd though because here's Paul. I mean, Paul could very easily have a card like Dromoka's Command, which kind of embarrasses Mastery of the Unseen.
It does. Dromoka's Command, especially if you manage to, kill a creature or whatever, can be huge. And you know what? I think Paul has one in his hand, Jake. So that means he could go like end step, level up my Warden of the First Tree, make it a 3/3. Whatever threat Craig plays realistically on 3 mana here, even Brimaz, even that, which is just going to get snapped off anyway here by ultimate price. But
I don't
either
think he
way,
has Dromoka's Command then, because if he did have Dromoka's Command, it's way too juicy to make your Warden into
well,
a 3/3.
now hold on. He doesn't have white
white
mana. Yeah,
Oh,
so
right,
he might still have it and just didn't have that option available.
That's reasonable.
Yet. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's hard. Yeah, there it is right there. Or is that Anafenza?
I believe it's Anafenza.
Okay, so he has
They look pretty
Anafenza
similar.
into Siege Rhino I saw in his hand. He's got 2 unknown cards, but this could be a real savage beatdown by Rietzel if Wesco can't come up with some punch here in this turn or the next. Now Rietzel notably though needs the white mana. Yeah, so that's going to be a lot of pressure too. So a lot of little sublines coming up here.
The other side of the table, a man who always has a plains in front of him, Craig Wesco.
It's true.
He sleeps with a
a
line
bed
of
of
plains
plains, yes,
in
it's
front
true.
of his bed.
Okay, so Wesco's going to take an opening here to do his own Dromoka's Command, using the freshly cast Fleecemane Lion as leverage to kill the only once leveled up Warden of the First Tree. So, advantage back to Wesco, and you know what? Rietzel still doesn't have that white mana, and he is going to have cards just rotting in his hand here.
Yeah.
So he's got Fleecemane,
Anafenza, another Siege Rhino, and double Fleecemane.
and double Fleecemane. Oh
Yeah.
no!
So 4 white cards, no white mana. Even if he does draw the white land, he's going to be, choked on just being able to cast 1 card a turn. Meanwhile, Craig can start activating Mastery of the Unseen.
And here we go. I think we're going to see that right now. Also, Collective Company is an option if he's got that in his hand, which he does. So he's got 2 different
I
options.
think I would just go for Collective Company.
Collective Company is a much more assertive play. It can result in you easily having 6 power on the battlefield, as opposed to just 2. But no, he's going to take advantage of the Mastery of the Unseen while it's there. I think he knows that it might not be there for the duration of the game here. And if he can generate some card advantage before it were to go away,
The other
then
thing
he
is
can do
that because Paul's had this slow start and Craig's life total isn't really under any pressure, and Craig even has the ability to make a monstrous lion right now, Craig could conceivably just think to himself, like, I can play the green-white manifest game. I don't have to do anything. I can start gaining so much life. Like, I can get to like 50 this game if I need to. My opponent will not be able to pressure me because I have this mastery and I can just maybe go off.
that does look like to be what's happening, although I will say Craig has now turned his creature sideways here. He's hitting the red zone. Paul Rietzel has activated his Death Dealer one way or the other. And it's a Death Mist Raptor, so Rietzel must have regenerated here then. And Rietzel's going to take 4.
Craig now up to 17, thanks to his mastery. And that mastery just picked up a free Death Mist Raptor. Well, so interestingly, he could have paid 3 and just flipped it up as a 3/3, but he instead paid 5 to pay the Megamorph.
Yeah, I don't know why he did that. Is that
For the
does the
plus
Megamorph?
+1 counter?
You get the counter, and otherwise you don't.
Otherwise, you do not.
Yeah, so he wanted to win the fight. All right, so back over to Craig Wesco, where he does look to be in the driver's seat here. Paul Rietzel knew he was going to spend his mana elsewhere, so he went ahead and attacked with his Death Dealer last turn, then killed the Fleecemane line before that could go monstrous, because he knows that that's a huge problem for his deck down the line. But still, the real question here is, can Paul find white mana? Oh, he finds a land, and it was another Llanowar waste.
And still there's 4 white cards in his hand.
You know, this happens not that often. If you were to tell me, oh, that's going to do it, Rietzel
He
is...
takes the planes away from Craig.
He just steals it with his hand and extends the other one. That's it. Craig Wesco into the top 8 and our freshly minted Platinum Pro for next year. He technically doesn't have it yet. He does have to show up at the Pro Tour. And the way this works for people that haven't seen is when you go to the Pro Tour, you get 3 Pro points for showing up, for playing.
Yes.
And so that's like a baseline that you get. And Craig has now put himself in a position where those 3 points alone will get him Platinum. So we call that locking Platinum. So I'm going to say congratulations to him there, even though he's technically not Platinum yet. Although, you know,
He
I
could
gotta
still hit it
wonder.
today.
I wonder if he just wins the GP if he just gets it right away.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean,
I don't know exactly how. Because remember
Looking
that
at what else is in this top 8 though, or what else like is potentially in this top 8, his deck looks real good.
I agree, but the real question is, what are his other GP finishes? Remember, you only get to keep your top 6, and he's a grinder. I mean, this guy, you know,
That's
plays a lot of
absolutely
GPs.
true.
But still, I would assume that a win would put him up above 2. You get, I think, 8 Pro points per win. All right, let's jump over to our other side match. Edgar Maghalius is at 8 and looking to take 3 here. And Justin's down a game, though, with the Atarka red deck, so he needs to get to work.
And this is the match that Randy had spoken to us earlier about, where the Become Immense had gotten blown out by Draconic Roar.
Okay, so Edgar is dead. All right, so that was an
Yes.
interesting sequence. So yeah, so Edgar was trying to gain some life. So he played his Grandmaster, and he was hoping that then he was going to be able to take out, it was only going to be one of the tokens with the Crackling Dew, but he would gain a couple more. With all that stuff on the stack, though, Justin Reardon said, Wild Slash you, and it resolved, so that was it. He was only at 2, and we're going to get a game 3 on our secondary match here. Again, this is a win in it.
Yeah.
Winner of this match is in. Is it going to be Mardu mid-range? Is it going to be a Tarka red? We got one game to find out.
That Tarka Red, the winning deck from the Pro Tour.
Indeed, yeah,
And,
that's the deck that
has
Martin
been,
Dang championed all the way to the end.
And it's
It's
doing
a
pretty well,
sweet deck.
too. Like, since then.
That deck is really good.
Yeah, the one of Become Immense seems to come up so much more often than it should. Like,
I mean, it
like,
gets
how many matches
talked
have we
about
lost
more.
to-
You
No,
know?
I mean, that's because I'm always losing to it. I feel like I can just never tap out because I just get like Might Evoked for 1 mana every time I tap out.
Yeah. That was a very clever inclusion by Martin in that deck. It changes everything. You know, like you just makes your opponent so
Fear
scared of
factor?
everything.
Yeah.
But
my
really,
goodness.
I think, you know, the key card to that deck is Atarka's Command.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
the deck that's the card that's responsible for the biggest
overperforms by a
damage
lot.
hits. Yeah, absolutely.
We were talking about it earlier about how regularly I'm getting hit for 7 by that thing.
Mm-hmm.
8.
Yep.
It's not
And
at all.
it gives you, you know, what we've seen from these commands is the ones that have been seen a lot of play, primarily Dromica's Command and Atarka's Command, that have been seen play in top tier standard decks here, are able to leverage certain 2-choice combos that they'll use as their default.
They also cost 2 mana.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reason why these ones are doing it. I'm saying the ones that have really managed to fit in are able to leverage these 2-choice combos as a really strong baseline, and then they can take advantage of the other options when it becomes, you know, advantageous. You wouldn't include the card for the other options, you know, for example, on Atarka's Command, not letting a player gain life. That's not worth a card on its own. But when you tack that on, it adds up in a big way.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes your opponent just casts the Siege Rhino and you don't really have a presence on the board, but you were hoping to draw like an extra burn spell and finish off the game, and suddenly they're still in range.
Yep.
You know, that it's no longer a saving grace.
And they're even closer. I mean, you can do 3 damage to a player and make them prevent it. They thought that they were going up, Instead, they're plummeting. Their life total goes down a lot.
Yeah, like, I can't tell you how many games I've cast Sorin, plussed it, expected to gain like 12 and be completely out of the woods, and then a Targus command happens, and my opponent top decks a Wild Slash and I die. You know?
No, it happens.
It's crazy.
I've also had my opponents, and I've done this to my opponents as well, you'll see them use a Tarkus command to do 3 to you and prevent life gain just from gaining like 1 life from a Courser of Crew fix or a Dismal Backwater or something like that, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, 4 damage for 2 mana is good.
Yeah, and all of a sudden
Really
you
good.
just got 4 damage for 2 mana, and you have to start looking at your life total like, how many draw steps can I let my opponent have? And that's the kind of card, that really you can get off to a quick start and then sit behind on and really wait for the right time to get in a bunch of damage, because the default mode, I was mentioning that a minute ago, is +1/+1 and does 3 damage. That's huge. Randy.
Yeah, I think you just got a flash there of Lucas Sial and Marcel Zafra moving on to a camera table. Lucas Sial evened it. Game apiece now. Their winning in is going to go to game 3, and we've got their game 3 coming up on a camera table after this.
Love it. Love it.
Dylan Donegan, by the way, still in game 1. They actually had a lengthy judge call. They're late in game 1 right now. No updates for you.
On day 2 Grand Prix Toronto, she is in front of the Sorin banner.
Right, Edgar has the play for game 3 against the Atarka Red deck, which is very important in this
Carrying
matchup.
over, have your photo taken. And for those VIPs who are interested in the draft, the free VIP draft, you can meet.
Ooh, is that
your
Kolagon's
VIP
command?
concierge.
Yes.
I love that card.
You like Kolagon's command?
I do. I've been very happy with that card every time I've had it in a draft deck, obviously, and I really want to play in constructed. It's the most easy to engineer 2-for-1 out of the players tonight.
Nice. Well, we're going to get a chance to see it here, it looks like, because Nomad Outpost takes care of half of it. Any of the other colors, and Edgar's going to be able to cast it. He's got the Soulfire Grandmaster out there as well, which also works well with Kolagon's command. I'm assuming that the command would kill something on Justin Reardon's side, as well as one of the other modes. And if it does that, well, Edgar's going to gain some life.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that Justin's going to not kill the Soulfire Grandmaster, because the thing is, it's like if he lets Edgar untap with that, especially if he plays a threat, then Edgar can do something like Draconic Roar with Soulfire Grandmaster and gain 6 life.
Ugh, yeah.
And when you're
No,
playing
you can't let
Atarka
him do
Red,
it.
you just can't let your opponent do something like that.
That said, this doesn't put Justin in a great spot, right? We're talking about turn 2, and he has yet to commit anything to a board in a deck that's full of 1-drops, full of threats.
Absolutely.
So, Edgar's done his role here of putting up something that must be killed and demanding that it get killed immediately. And Justin did oblige him, but it means that Justin hasn't really got off to an amazing start here. Edgar, though, a little slow here, perhaps himself, as he plays the Temple of Silence and then just passes the turn back. Let's see what the turn 3 is here for Justin. Randy, what do you got for us as far as updates go?
Mark Jacobson has taken game 1 of his winning in against Dylan Donegan. Dylan very frustrated. He got Mark down to 1 at the end, or maybe it was 2. Thought he had it. Mark had what he needed. Dylan also had lost the judge ruling early and was still a little frustrated that Mark picked up a warning but not a game loss for something that Dylan thought was a bigger deal than judges did.
Mark Jacobson is playing that Bant deck that we've seen
Bant
do
Megamorph.
very well here. We know that Ben White's is already in.
And Bant Megamorph has been performing very well against Abzan Aggro. Dylan Donegan is the only Abzan Aggro player we've actually seen beat Megamorph. But it seems that he's down a game against it right now.
All right, so here's Goblin Rabblemaster for the Mardu mid-range deck of Edgar Maghalias, and that thing resolves. He's going to get in there with the Goblin and pass the turn back. So he's kind of taking the Goblin fight right to Justin Reardon here, he's supposed to be the one with a bunch of Goblins on the battlefield.
Yeah,
In the meantime, a second copy of Lightning Strike is going to take down the Rabblemaster before it gets out of control. But for somehow, Justin is now the control player and has played the control role in this matchup thus far, or in this game thus far.
Definitely not what Justin wants. The
No.
other thing that's interesting about that is when you get to play a Rabblemaster into a tapped out red opponent, it's really, really good because the Goblin you make actually represents a card against them.
Yeah.
It has tons of 1 toughness stuff. So suddenly, instead of it just being this thing that doesn't really matter, like it is in a lot of other matchups, it's decent. It has some incidental value. Against the red deck, it's a full card.
Nice. So Edgar's going to actually attack with it because Frenzy Goblin's waiting on the other side, so he probably wouldn't be able to block anyway, but there's Thunderbreak region. as a follow-up play. So, you know, now all of a sudden he's going to start being able to go over the top of Justin Reardon, right? Like we've reached a stage of the game where Edgar, his threats are just going to be way, way more powerful than what Justin can do on average here.
I really like Edgar's spot here. Oh, obviously, but.
And this is going to be Stoke the Flames to kill the Regent, but of course that's going to result in an incidental 3 damage coming in. The Regent very good here. I mean, it ate a Stoke the Flames, which was the best case for Justin. Like, okay, at least I had an answer for the thing. And he can't even use Frenzy Goblin on it, like without taking the damage. It's just...
And here Edgar's passing with Kolagon's command up. And now he gets the Kolagon's command, if he wants to, making Justin discard a card and killing the Frenzied Goblin, which is pretty good, especially considering that he knows Justin's hand is all cards.
Right, actual spells.
You know, no lands.
Yeah, we got a proper Goblin fight here, no doubt about it. Justin Reardon finds himself on his back heels against the Mardu mid-range deck, even though he's a Tarka Red. He's supposed to be the one keeping Edgar on his back heels, but Justin's going to have to switch gears here, and it looks like he's trying to switch it into high gear and bring the race right to Edgar's doorstep. He's going to kick things off with the Monastery Swift Spear, and he does have mana available here for an Atarka's command if he wants to do it. I don't know if he's got one in his hand, but...
Yeah, I think if I'm Edgar here, if he doesn't activate that Frenzied Goblin, then I'm expecting that it's Atarka's command.
Instead it's the third Lightning Strike here.
So I imagine in response to that, we're going to see, with the Prowess trigger on the stack, Kolagon's command, killing Monastery Swift Spear, returning Thunderbreak Region back to Edgar's hand.
Sweet, that would be great for Edgar. His opponent's tapped out, so there's no risk with the Swift Spear as far as it growing bigger in response, right? So
yeah.
the door's open.
I just gotta think whether or not he wants to make Justin discard one of those last 2 cards, or whether or not he wants to return this Thunderbreak Region.
Figure he wants to get the Regent back. He looks like he's digging around.
Ooh,
okay, Soulfire
I think I'd
Grandmaster.
take that.
Yeah, I mean, when you're on 0 cards,
yeah, it makes your top decks a lot more powerful, especially you're playing against this red deck. Still at 16, he can't be set with his positioning. But it looks like he just drew a land. I believe he can just Haven the Spirit Dragon and return Thunderbreak Region here and cast it. Sorry that every single one of my lines involves him returning Thunderbreak Region from the graveyard and casting it, but...
if he did draw an untapped land, he can do that. Yeah, he's got a Caves of Koilos there. Yeah, that is the most mana efficient play he's got. And he's going to go for it. I like that line a lot. Uses up his mana, puts the biggest possible threat up, and plus the Soulfire Grandmaster with nothing else going on isn't, amazing.
Definitely not.
Especially considering that Edgar's at 16 and Justin's at 9. It's still clear that, Edgar's actually the beatdown in this scenario. And those 1/1 goblins, the leftovers that you were talking about earlier from the pair of Rabble Masters that have been cast, are just doing serious work here too.
Yeah, like if Justin attacks, it makes it so that the Thunderbreak Regent can't block. First of all, he's going to be taking.
He goes to 3. He goes to 6. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably not what he can do. So actually, the attack just looks miserable for Justin.
This attack is just horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Edgar still has the Soulfire Grandmaster sitting in his hand as well. So he's got another threat to play next turn. And if he drew a burn spell or something to accompany it, it could get really good.
Yeah, it can get ugly fast.
Yeah. This is already ugly, right? And
yeah.
If you're Justin Reardon, this is ugly.
I'm not good.
Now he's got 2 spells in his hand, so find some way. But yeah, this is a little bit of desperation here. I think he's got to just attack with everything, send the team in. So the Thunderbreak region's going to jump in front of the Frenzy Goblin, and Edgar can't block quick enough here on the other Goblin.
I mean, he's
Tells him
probably
taking
gonna,
1 point of damage.
He might take, 5 total after a Tarkus command. But
Yep, that's a Tarkus command.
even that, I mean, he just goes to 11, and then Justin has 1 card left in his hand and a Goblin token,
Right.
or a pair of Goblin tokens, rather.
So not too bad there for Justin. I mean, he did get a nice hit in there to drop Edgar down to 11, but in the meantime, crunch. And the clock is now ticking. If he gets hit one more time, then that should just about be game, because either the Regent kills him or he tries to kill the Regent.
Oh.
Is this Anger of the Gods?
This is Anger of the Gods.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's going to be gain 15 life.
Indeed.
Yeah, so
It deals
Edgar,
3 damage to each creature, and since he had the Soulfire Grandmaster out, that's the thing doing the damage. He goes up to 26.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow. and if you look at it, Justin Reardon's at 5. If he gets hit once with Thunderbreak, that's going to be game, because he has to interact with it in some way. It's not like he's brought sweepers in out of the board or something in this red deck, and I think we're going to see Edgar move on to the top 8, and we do indeed. To a round of applause in the feature match area. Edgar Magalius is in with Mardu mid-range. He squeaks one out there against the Tarka Red. And you can see his friends coming over to congratulate him, his judge asking for the slip. And all is well for Team Edgar. Now Justin Reardon, he's going to have to settle for a super solid finish here at the GP. Just 1 game away from top 8. All right, so let's take a look at the match that Randy had updated us about a little earlier here, JVL. We've got Marcel Zafra.
an Esper Dragons.
Esper Dragons player, yep. And again, just like the rest of these, this is a win in it.
And Lucas is good at top 8ing these Canadian Grand Prix. I mean, he's good at top 8ing all Grand Prix. He's a tremendous player, but I've said it before. I'm not sure, was I in the booth with you last time covering his match?
Yeah.
I think I was. I mean, he is...
you said he's very patient and he loves his value.
Yes. And he is one of my favorite Magic players. He's one of the people who I'd like to face the least. He always beats it.
He's your kryptonite.
He is my kryptonite.
All right, so there we go. Siege Rhino and Courser of Crew Fix in the same turn here for Xiao as he's looking to try to win his game 3. Take a look at Marcel there. Randy, you got an update?
Yeah, I see Dylan Donegan sitting down on that back table now. He has evened his match. He said Wingmate Rock was going to be the answer against Phantom Megamorph, and Wingmate Rock plus a level 3 Warden of the First Tree got the job done, so they'll be on to game 3.
Wow, so that means we're 4 for 4 on game 3s in the feature match area for our win ins.
Yeah, just
great.
Pro Tour invites and Grand Prix top 8s on the line. No big deal.
Thanks, Randy. So, what is happening here? It looks like there's a Foul Tongue invocation and another one. So Marcel Zafra, even though it looks like he's hell-bent otherwise, no other cards, is able to deal with the board of Lucas Xiao, and Xiao's got 2 cards in hand still, Fleece Mainline, and Elspeth. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, when your opponent has no cards left in hand.
This could be over really quickly
Pretty
here.
good.
Zafra draws a land for the turn and passes it back, and it looks like Xiao might be making another GP top 8 here. He's going to monstrous his Fleece Main.
Very good at defending his turf when he's in Canada.
That's right. Not quite as good as Alexander Hayne, but he's up there.
Yeah. As far as top 8 retention rate goes, pretty close.
All right, is this going to be it? Anticipate? Better be a heck of a card here for Marcel. He's found a Crux of Fate. Unfortunately, the monstrous Fleece Mane is going to get right through that, and Xiao, with a huge sigh of relief, secures another GP top 8. He couldn't be happier. Poor Marcel Zafra. He's going to have to settle once again for a super solid finish here. X and 3. That is in the invite range, though, isn't it?
I'll
I'll have to ask Randy.
Don't think so. I think it's
X2.
go X and 2.
Okay. So Marcel Zafra's going to have to settle for a super solid finish here then.
Yeah, incredible run
But
here.
Lucas Xiao, he's in. Big smile on his face.
Back
You said
on
he
the
was
Pro
one of your
Tour.
favorite players. You get to watch him some more today in the top 8. Yeah.
Attention players, the GP.
Odds
And
on
also,
mid-range gets there.
Interesting note, Lucas Xiao worked with Daniel Fournier for this event. They were a two-man team. I did a deck tech with Daniel Fournier at the beginning of day one.
Yeah, I remember.
Their decks, their full 75s are 2 cards different, and they work together as a two-man team, and they're both in the top 8 of this Grand Prix. That's kind of insane.
That's
it's a
great.
1,600-person tournament.
That is.
They're both
impressive.
very strong players, but geez, man.
Yeah, they got to get credit for that, no doubt about it. All right, that leaves us with but one match. We saw Craig Wesco win.
And this is it.
We saw
One
Lucas
final
Xiao
game.
win, and now we've got Dylan Donegan versus Mark Jacobson.
Mark Jacobson on the right here, Dylan Donegan on the left.
Yep. Mark Jacobson is playing Bant Megamorph. Now, his team of testers, that's Ben White's, also Neil Oliver was in that group, have all done very well at this GP. It looks like they've really picked a nice spot to bring this deck to the table, and I think it's a good matchup for Mark generally. Dylan Donegan, though, is going to fire off self-inflicted wound right away and get rid of the Elvish Mystic. It's not getting any better than that anyway. You might as well take him off in this manner.
Absolutely, especially when you're on the draw. You know, when somebody gets to be ahead 2 turns thanks to an Elvish Mystic on the draw when it goes unanswered can really just get it completely out of hand when you're not playing counter magic and your opponent actually gets to resolve.
Yeah, when it's on the play.
But if you could take that wind out of their sails, it helps quite a bit.
And he did, and Jacobson's only rebuttal was another Elvish Mystic. Meanwhile, Dylan Donegan says, hey, I can do better than that, buddy. Here's Unoffensive the Foremost. So your life total is now in question. And Mark Jacobson's going to have to do something better than a mana elf on this turn if he's going to survive multiple hits from an Unoffensive the Foremost. Also, Unoffensive does really good work against this deck in some ways. You know, the Death Mist Raptors, when they die, they get exiled if Unoffensive is out there. And that means that there isn't this whole engine where you get to get this Den Protector nonsense going and, kind of grind out the mid-game that way.
Ooh, and we see Glare of Heresy there, dealing with Unoffensive the Foremost.
All right, so sideboard in effect. Still no great play here from Mark besides that, or maybe I spoke too soon. Yeah, he's got a Fleecemane Lion, so a nice turn there from Jacobson.
He used all of his mana.
Well, yeah, he got in for a damage, used up his lands, and did the Fleecemane. So that's nice, right? I mean, He's got to feel good about that. But Dylan Donegan, not done yet. Unoffensive the Foremost plus Warden of the First Tree, so he's immediately built back his board. And now the ball is back in Mark Jacobson's court here.
Yeah, Warden of the First Tree, that's, from Dylan Donegan, this is a rough matchup for him. Abzan Aggro has a bad matchup against Bant Megamorph, and Bant Megamorph players know that. That's one of the major reasons they're playing the deck. But as an Abzan Aggro player, Dylan has Warden of the First Tree and Wingmate Rock, and those are his best avenues to victory. The Bant Megamorph deck doesn't really have spot removal spells, and Warden of the First Tree can just get completely out of hand, and once it starts getting massive when it has Trample and Lifelink, it's pretty much impossible to race.
Right.
Meanwhile, Wingmate Rock, fights the good fight in the air.
Right.
So
I wonder if Mark
really
Jacobson has Dromica's Command at his disposal here, maybe. That would be a nice thing to take out to use. He's drawn way too many elves here, though. That's his third one. So you just mentioned how, just a massive Warden of the First Tree can get out of hand. Mark does have a long-term plan against it with the Hornet Nest here. That's going to demand
it's not
a
really
removal spell.
Though, because you have to remember the Warden will trample.
Yeah, but he can't.
Once
I
it
mean,
gets-
if he can make it a 20-20, okay, fine, but I don't think that Dylan's going to get that much time this game. We'll see. I'm assuming he's not.
Probably not. I mean, he does have spot removal spells for the Nest.
Yeah, that's the key, is that it demands a spot removal spell
It does.
if Dylan wants to start beating down here. He's going to settle for a Rakshasa Death Dealer for this turn as he passes it back to Mark Jacobson, who's got, not an explosive draw here, right? 3 elves, Hornet Nest, Fleecemane Lion. It's got some sideboard
I
action.
think he sends with the Lion here if he doesn't have any other action in his hand, or if he just has something like a Den Protector, I'd probably just send with Lion.
He does have monstrous mana available here. Lion in. I mean, remember, Donegan's the one who's
So
down
Mark
to
does
9.
have a card in hand. If the card in Mark's hand is not a land, then it's almost assuredly a Den Protector based on this attack.
Once this round is completed,
There's 2 cards,
and we have
so
resolved
maybe I'm
all
just
results in, we will post
making some rash assumptions. I think that it's probably lands Den Protector then. Ooh, that's interesting.
So Dylan Donegan says, I call. Oh.
Mark Jacobson
Just went,
calls.
he recalled and went for it, and
Yeah.
bang! Monstrous Fleecemane Lion resolves, no removal spell from Donegan, and now, yeah, the Fleecemane Lion is fully charged up with Onofensa getting just eaten. That's a big loss there for Donegan. He does get to put a level up on the old Warden of the First Tree. That's what that dice represents there. But that Fleecemane Lion could be a pretty big problem for Donegan going forward. Now, Mark can keep it back to block, or he can keep attacking and tie up a couple of Donegan's mana with from the Death Dealer each turn too. So a big sequence there, that last attack step.
And tying up the mana with the Death Dealer, it not only ties up mana, but it also deals a little bit of damage. Because Dylan Donegan, the only way he can produce green-black is by dealing himself at least 1 damage, because he has Caves, Citadel, Mana Confluence. So yeah, the Citadel produces all 3 colors, but to get a black or a green from another land, he's going to have to take a damage. Another Onofensa in hand, and another Death Dealer for Donegan. Not really cards he's loving to draw, especially when you have Hornet's Nest on the other end of the table. Like, Hornet's Nest is so good against like Death Dealer and Onofensa, just road blocking.
So Donegan just passes the turn back as he puts his hands in his hair here. You can tell he's feeling the stress down there. This has been an emotional match for him too. Randy mentioned earlier that there was a judge call. I think Mark had received a warning or something, and that can sometimes get the blood flowing a little bit. So, a lot of heat on these guys. Remember, they're playing for their spot in the top 8. The loser out. No top 8 for you. And
I mean, it was
that
a
would
bluff
mean a
on
lot.
Dylan's part, the block with Onofensa.
Mm-hmm.
Like he turned like
Because he had 3 mana up, and he just said
he
you
got caught
wouldn't
with his hand in
dare.
the cookie jar. But sometimes you have to make the brave play.
I mean, in some ways, it was in that same scenario, it was a bluff from Mark, right?
Yeah.
He's
Mark
saying,
started it off, and then
yeah, it's a pretty cool sequence. Okay, so there,
interesting mind games going on.
right, now you mentioned this a little bit earlier, the Warden of the First Tree. It's now at level 2, so it's a 3/3 trample lifelink. The next level starts putting 5+1/+1 counters on the thing. And if you've never played with the card, you can keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's kind of the cool part about it. So if Dylan has another land here, he could start dumping counters on this thing and try to make this his game plan. Like you said, it becomes so huge that you really can't race it. They're gaining 8+ per turn, and it starts to become very difficult to race. So that could be one way that Donegan can find his way to victory, because right now he's fallen all the way down to 5 life. Hasn't really been able to put much pressure on Marcus at 17. So here's Fleecemane Lion, though, for Donegan, who seems like he doesn't have that extra mana.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that. The other issue is that one of his lands has a Mana Confluence also, and his life total is quite low.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's tapping it here. And I don't see an Urborg out, so I think he would be taking damage from it if he did. He goes back in the tank. You see that grimace from Dylan Donegan. You can tell he's just feeling the heat down there.
This is a difficult game for him. I mean, it's a bad matchup. Really wants to find something like Wingmate Rock.
It looks like he played a face-down morph here, but I believe that would bring him down to 4 life.
Ooh.
What is that?
Glare of Heresy. Back from the graveyard.
So he's going to get Glare of Heresy back with the Den Protector.
Stainful Stroke off the top from Mark Jacobson too, so a little bit of
a little insurance plan against a card like what you mentioned, Wingmate Rock or something?
Yes.
Okay. Now what's the Den Protector's attack outlook like here? Right now, he can get blocked by a few creatures over on Dylan's side.
But no longer, right?
Well, no, still the Warden's a 3/3.
Oh, yes.
But
yes.
that's a trade I think that Mark would be
Yeah, I'm pretty
fine
sure
with
Mark would be
taking
all right
here.
with that one.
All right, this is the last match.
Winner of this in top 8.
Yeah, this is the last match outstanding for the round. So all eyes are here. I'm sure there's a bunch of people in the feature match area watching this too. And both the Fleece Mane Lion, that one's monstrous, and the Den Protector are there. And Donegan says, well, what should I do here? He does a little head wag there.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
I
is-
like the head bag.
This is not an easy spot. Mark Jacobson looks pretty cool as a cucumber over there. And he's going to end up only taking a damage here. Dropping him back down to 4. Yeah, it's 3. So we just didn't have the update from the Mana Confluence from last turn. So
Okay.
he went from 4 to 3 this turn, not from 5 to 4.
Chris McGuire, if you're able to, if you would please come to the side of the stage. Chris McGuire, to the side of the
There's
stage.
2 blockers here. Because even if he's able to find a big spell, there's Disdainful Stroke in Mark Jacobson's hand. He does have the option to Den Protector here. Get back a self-inflicted wound.
That's pretty good here. That's one of the only ways to get rid of that Fleece Mane Lion. He's going to need to do a lot more work than that, though. So let's see what he gets back. All right, he's on the Warden plan, it looks like.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, he's just got too much work to do. He doesn't have enough removal spells, in fact, none in hand, and not enough to take down all the other creatures to whittle down to the Fleece Mane Lion. So he's just going to try to go over the top again with the Warden of the First Tree and really put it on Mark Jacobson to close out this game. And it looks like Dylan's just gonna chump block here,
Yeah, the
as
thing
opposed to go down to 1.
Well, he would have to go down to 0 because now that both of
His black
are green.
mana source too. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
So the Mana Confluence, no matter what, and then like you said, the black mana as well. So he just has to chump block. And he has put himself at a very dangerous life total here.
I mean, he has a Rhino now, but
Is it going to be too late for Dylan Donegan?
I think it's a little late. The Siege Rhino does some pretty amazing things.
You never underestimate a Siege Rhino.
Then again, Mark Jacobson has the Disdainful Stroke in hand, right?
Never underestimate a control player.
We I'd forgot about that. It was many turns ago that we had drawn that one.
Yeah, it's there for sure.
It's that last card right there.
Whoop. Could not cast that fast enough, though. That still is not the win here, right? Jacobson still doesn't actually have lethal. The elves, one of them would get blocked by the Den Protector, the Fleece Mane would get blocked by something, and then one elf would get through as the board sits. Dylan wants a quick reminder on what Hornet Nest does exactly. But either way, Dylan's not in attack mode. And right as I say that, he's lining up an attack.
Not sure what.
It's only a 3/3. Yeah, I don't know what he's up to here, but we'll just wait and let him decide what his line's going to be.
It's probably just a bluff.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just passed the turn back. Okay. So Jacobson does not have lethal as the board sits, but he's very, very close. He could attack with everything to get him to 1, or just attack with the Fleece Mane and force a chump block. He's going to attack with everything. Block, block, go to 1. All right, Dylan Donegan now cannot tap that Mana Confluence again, unless he gains life somehow.
And the caves is now.
And the caves.
The pair of caves are both colorless lands.
He does have white mana sources available, though, to try to get this thing up to lifelink status. The problem is he's out of time. He's going to have to chump block here against the Fleece Mane. That would keep him alive for another turn, but he would lose the Warden of the First Tree in that exchange, and that's his whole game plan here. And he's out of turns to get it up to level 3. So he's going to need something else.
Here.
Yeah, he needs another plan. He could get one more draw step.
Yeah, it looks like he has Dramoka's Command in hand, but not the ideal card for this situation right now.
So close. I mean, if he could get this thing bigger than the Fleecemane, then he could find himself at stable. But that is a tall order.
Hornet Nest combines quite well with Dramoka's Command.
Truth.
Ability to fight and create hornets.
Take a bunch of damage.
Just fight a
Donegan is
Sirach the Hunt Caller.
thinking he does have an extra creature that he could cast this turn. Again, as effectively as a chump blocker because he's choked on black mana here. He only has one actual black mana source, which is the Sandstep Citadel there. And that'll allow him to cast the Rakshasa Death Dealer that he's got in his hand. Wow, he attacked.
Interesting.
He's going to try to proactively gain life here.
It looks like it. But I think he just dies then.
He can tap like that. That puts it to level 2, so it's 3/3 plus trample. Pass priority. So he's going to take, so Jacobson would take 1 in this exchange, but get a bunch of bees. He's got
and Dylan
3
goes
of
to
them.
4. I don't know if Dylan really has play from this spot now.
Well, that gives him a little bit of wiggle room to cast a Dromoka's Command, but
And he's going to gain some life off of it too.
yes.
But
he still can't take care of the Fleecemane line, which is really the issue here. All right, so this puts a counter on it and takes down the elf and gains him 4 more life.
Dylan,
I mean, he's doing everything he
these
can.
Bees are
Yeah, the bees are pretty annoying for him here.
pretty good. Ooh.
Was it Valorous
Yeah,
Stance?
It was Valorous
Oh,
Stance.
Valorous Stance is
And-
just going to do it
yeah,
here.
and Dylan now at
Dylan
1.
fought so hard to get to that point, and you see the look of a dejected Magic player there, head held low. He did everything he could to get back up, and he says, I was so close. And now he's going to try to restructure and see if there's anything he can do against the insects, and there isn't. Mark Jacobson secures his spot in the top 8, and while he was a pretty cool customer during the course of that match, you see the huge elation and relief that he feels after having made the top 8, and Dylan Donegan is going to have to come back another day.